Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of What on Earth to Eat Now, especially to all our subscribers. If you do watch these videos and you haven't yet had a chance to click that subscribe button, please do. It really helps us out, helps us to keep making these videos. So let's get to today's recipe. Today I'm going to show you how to make our favourite carrot cake recipe. It's an incredibly simple all-in-one bowl cake, and I'm going to show you right now how to make it. So I'm going to start with 2 medium carrots. I've just washed them and I've left the skin on. It's about 165 grams when you're finished. And I'm just going to roughly grate them. So I've got my grated carrot there, and I'm simply going to put all the rest of my ingredients into the bowl. So I've got 165 grams of 00 flour, and that's just slightly finer flour you might use for making pasta. I'm going to add 50 grams of finely ground walnuts. We really like to get the halves and then put them in the food processor and blend them until they're quite fine. It's nice not to have sort of chunks of walnuts in this cake. 40 grams of desiccated coconut. It's really very simple. I've got 150 grams of light brown soft sugar. I've got 2 flax eggs here, so that's 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed with 5 tablespoons of water. I've just mixed that together and left it for about 10 minutes. So I'm just going to pop that in like so. I've got 130 grams of tinned pineapple, which I've just put in the food processor and blended until really smooth. So just simply like that, and I'm going to put that in. I've got 90 ml of corn oil here. I've got a tablespoon of vanilla. Tablespoon and a half. I've got half a teaspoon of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. I'm just going to sprinkle that in like so. A small pinch of salt. Finally, I've got my cinnamon and my nutmeg here. And that's everything. So I'm going to give it a really good mix. So I'm going to just give it a really good mix and make sure that there are no bits of dry flour. It's as simple as that. It's a really versatile recipe. You could double the recipe and put your extra loaf tin in the freezer. They defrost very simply. You can also use different shapes. So if you wanted to make little cupcakes or tea cakes, it's a very forgiving recipe. So I've lined a 30cm loaf tin. I've preheated my oven to 180 degrees, and all that's left to do is bake my cake. So I'm going to bake this for about 50 minutes to an hour. I'll check it after 45. So whilst I'm baking the cake in the oven, I'm going to get on with making the icing. It's incredibly simple. So I've sifted 75 grams of just regular icing sugar, and into that I'm going to put 300 grams of plant-based cream cheese. This is an almond-based cream cheese. I'm going to put a teaspoon of vanilla bean paste. If you have an actual vanilla pod, use the seeds. And then I'm simply just going to whisk it all together. Just going to whisk it until it all comes together. It should be silky and smooth. And gloriously rich and indulgent. Like so. So it's been about 50 minutes and my cake is done. It's lovely and golden on top. I'm just going to check for doneness with a skewer. It should come out clean, and it's clean. So I'm just going to ice it very simply. A few blobs on like that. I'm just going to take my palette knife, or you could just use a regular knife. I'm just going to smooth it over. I did leave the cake to cool for a good half an hour because if it's warm, your icing will melt and you don't want that. Finally, I'm just going to crumble some more walnut palm on top. Look at that beautiful cake. And voila, your beautiful carrot cake with luscious frosting. Who could possibly resist a slice? We want to hear from you guys. If there's a recipe that you've particularly enjoyed, send us a photo or a video to hello@whatonearthtoeatnow.com and we'll feature our favourites in our upcoming videos. Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of What on Earth to Eat Now. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you again next week for another episode of What on Earth to Eat Now. I'm just going to have to tuck right in.